It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. Your phone is face down beside you because you promised yourself you wouldn't check it again. Your mind won't stop. And somewhere in the back of your head, a thought creeps in. Something is wrong with you. But the real answer is far stranger. For most of human history, waking up in the middle of the night wasn't a disorder. It wasn't a symptom. It was Tuesday. Your ancestors didn't sleep the way you think they did. They didn't lie down at 10 p.m. and wake up 8 unbroken hours later. That idea, the one you've been measuring yourself against every time you fail to fall back asleep, is barely 200 years old. Historian Roger Kirch spent over a decade combing through diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe. What he found rewrote the story of human sleep entirely. People didn't sleep in one block. They slept in two. The first sleep began shortly after dark. A few hours in, people woke. Not from stress, not from insomnia. They woke because that's simply what the body did. This waking period had a name. The English called it watching. It could last 1 hour, sometimes 2, and it wasn't wasted time. People prayed during it. They talked with the person beside them. They processed their dreams while the images were still fresh. Something modern sleep researchers now believe may have supported emotional memory consolidation. Some got up and tended the fire, then eventually a second sleep followed, carrying them through until dawn. Kirch found over 500 references to this pattern in historical sources. It shows up in Chaucer, it shows up in Homer, it shows up in court testimonies where someone describes exactly what they were doing during their first sleep before a crime occurred nearby. This wasn't rare. It was assumed. Nobody explained it because nobody needed to. Everyone already knew. So what happened? Why does your body now treat that same waking moment as a malfunction? The answer isn't biology, it's light. For nearly all of human evolution, night meant darkness. Real darkness. The kind modern humans almost never experience anymore. Your ancestors' bodies evolved around a single, non-negotiable rhythm. The sun goes down, melatonin rises, the body prepares for rest. But that rest didn't need to be continuous because there was no artificial reason to compress it. Then came gaslighting, then electric light. Historian A. Roger Kirch and later sleep researchers like Thomas Wehr began to ask what would happen if you removed modern light exposure entirely, even temporarily. Wehr ran an experiment in the early 1990s. He took a group of participants and placed them in conditions of extended darkness, 14 hours a night for a full month, with no artificial light allowed after sundown. Within weeks, something remarkable happened. Their sleep split on its own. Without instruction, they began falling into 2 distinct blocks, almost exactly matching Kirch's historical descriptions, with a quiet waking period in between. Their bodies hadn't forgotten. They just hadn't been asked to remember, because modern light did something ancient sleep patterns were never built to withstand. It compressed the night. Electric light extended the day artificially, and consolidated sleep followed, not because it was healthier, but because it was necessary to fit rest into a shrinking window of darkness. Your ancestors weren't better sleepers than you. They simply had more night to work with. Here's where it gets stranger. This shift wasn't just biological. It became moral. By the Victorian era, waking in the night started to carry shame. Productivity ideology was rising. Idle hours, even unconscious ones, began to feel like wasted ones. Sleep needed to be efficient. A person who couldn't get through the night in one block wasn't syncing with a lost rhythm. They were failing. That shame didn't disappear. It just got a new name: insomnia. Think about that for a second. The exact behavior your great-great-great-grandparents considered completely unremarkable, waking in the dark, lying quietly, letting the mind wander, is the same behavior that now sends people searching for sleep medication at 3 a.m. You're not broken. You're early. Psychologist and sleep researcher Matthew Walker has spent years studying what happens to the body during those quiet waking hours, and his research points to something your ancestors may have intuitively understood. The brain doesn't switch off cleanly. It moves through this liminal state on its way between deep sleep and REM, and that in-between period is unusually good for creative and emotional processing. Ideas surface. Solutions to unfinished problems appear. It's why so many historical accounts describe this window as a time for prayer, reflection, or quiet planning, not panic. Modern sleep culture never asks what that hour is for. It only asks how to make it disappear. So why does it feel so unbearable now if it was once so ordinary? Because context changed everything. Your ancestors woke into candlelight or darkness with nowhere to be and nothing demanding a response. You wake into a world of blue light and notifications, a mind that immediately reaches for a screen, and a culture that has convinced you 8 unbroken hours is the only acceptable outcome. The waking itself isn't the problem. The panic layered on top of it is. There's a quiet irony here. The very technology that erased the 2-phase sleep pattern is the same technology now marketed to fix the anxiety it created. Sleep trackers, white noise apps, melatonin gummies, all built to solve a problem that, for most of human history, wasn't a problem at all. None of this means insomnia isn't real or that sleep struggles don't deserve care. Genuine sleep disorders exist and they're worth taking seriously. But for the millions of people who wake once in the night, glance at the clock, and spiral into fear that something is fundamentally wrong with them, the history tells a different story. Your ancestors would have found this reaction confusing. Waking at 2 a.m. wasn't the enemy, it was simply the middle of the night, arriving exactly on schedule, just like it always had. So tonight, when the ceiling starts staring back at you, try something different. Don't reach for the phone. Don't check the time with dread. Let the watching happen. Your body isn't malfunctioning. It's remembering something the modern world made you forget. It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. And for the first time, maybe that's exactly where you're supposed to be.